Hi, Mike.
Hi, Mark. How you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Good. Well, I know we're here to talk about movie stuff today, but I just want to tell you I'm a huge fan of yours. I've been reading your stuff since way back with Swamp Thing and Superman Adventures, so I'm very excited to talk to you. Yeah.
Everyone thinks I started with Marvel in 2001, so it's amazing. Nobody's ever really talked about it.
I was, I was a big Swamp Thing fan, actually. I was a big fan of Nancy Collins' run, and then you took over with Grant for a couple issues, obviously. Well, you know all that, but, you took over, and I stuck with it for a long time, and I read a lot of your JLA stuff, and so...
You're literally the first person to say that to me in about 5 years.
Oh, well, I'm glad to hear that.
Great.
Excellent. Are you going to be at the New York Comic Con in October?
I'm actually going to be at the other New York Con that's 1 week earlier, the Wizard Con.
Okay, great.
So I'll definitely be in New York. I mean, I'm just seeing it as a trip to New York to get drunk with my friends.
That sounds like a good time. Well, let's talk about Kick-Ass. Obviously, it's been very popular. It was filming as a movie before you even finished publishing it.
That's right.
When did you know you had such a kind of big hit on your hands?
I don't know. I always felt something quite special about Kick-Ass. Like whenever I was just sitting doing my doodles before I actually started writing the script of the comics, I just felt I'd stumbled onto something. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can just tell something's going well or it's going to be good. And I knew that Kick-Ass was going to be popular himself, but something weird happened with Hit Girl as well. And I found myself writing lots of Hit Girl scenes that were still a few issues away and so on. I was so excited about it. And that's always a good sign. So right at the beginning I knew it was going to be popular. And I said the same to Matthew whenever we were just putting the sets together and things like this. I was saying, this is going to be great. And Matthew was like, well, we don't know, we'll see how it goes. I said, no, I have a feeling people are going to love this. And I've just always had this kind of quite tigerish attitude towards Kick-Ass. I just always knew it would work out.
Very cool. And now, you were on the set. Were you involved with the making of the film at all, beyond it being based on your story? Did you kind of give them some suggestions, guidelines, or are you more of an observer?
Oh no, on Wanted I was much more of an observer. I just did a couple of set visits and a few meetings and so on about script. But Kick-Ass, I pretty much lived in London for 2 years,
Right.
Like, I was down in London every week, pretty much, for 2 whole years, whether it was script meetings or looking at casting or, being on set during shooting and everything, And then post-production work, So, like, Kick-Ass, Matthew promised, he said, like, I won't do anything in this that doesn't make me happy. I'll keep you involved every step of the way. And he was very true as well.
Very cool. And now, and as often as the case, they did change some key parts of the movie from the comic. How do you react to that as the writer?
Well, Matthew, again, he was very, very, very good about it. All he said to me before he even got to the scene, he said, look, I've read your plot for the last couple of issues. I know what the plan is. He said, I don't think we should have Big Daddy do the reveal that he's a fantasist, in the movie. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I understand, for the comic it's absolutely necessary because the comic needed to have one more twist. Right. And similarly in the comic, I wanted Dave and Casey not to get together because I think it worked better in the comic. Right. But in the movie, you must have the boy getting the girl, and the twist would have been too much in the movie with Big Daddy. So Matthew and I talked about that at length before he started even writing the screenplay, so obviously I was very cool with that. Just what works as the comic doesn't always work as a movie and vice versa.
Right. And what's it like for you watching, something that you dreamed up and created transformed into a live-action film? Is it exciting?
It's like having a baby. I mean, it's like having a baby that turns out awesome. So,
right.
I couldn't be happier. I mean, I'm sure at some point, they're turning quite a lot of my things into movies in various stages just now, and I'm sure at some point one of them is going to suck, but I've been very lucky so far. The stuff has been good.
Well, you have obviously had 2 movies based on your works in the past 2 years, and you said you have more coming out. Are you like Hollywood's go-to guy now?
Well, it's funny, Stan Lee said to me a few years ago when I interviewed him for a magazine, he said, like, why is nobody doing what I did and just creating a whole bunch of new characters, And he said, everybody's just doing my characters instead of doing their own. And I thought, that's a very good point. So I went off and just started creating all this stuff. And I'm very lucky that no one else seems to be trying to do the same thing, trying to create lots of new superheroes for this generation. And so I'm really just trying to do the standard, and I've been lucky, there's 5 different films in development at the moment, so.
Right.
We just sold another one last week, and that looks like it's going to move very quickly into production too. So I think it's a great time to be doing this kind of job. Technology has caught up with the stuff we can do in comic books now, so now everyone is going nuts for comics.
Right. Now, can you tell us all of the projects that are in development, or are some of them still hush-hush?
Sure. We've got, there's Wanted 2, I hear different stories about it every week, but Wanted 2, Wanted made so much money, they won't let Wanted 2 not happen,
Mm-hmm.
There's Kick-Ass 2 that Matthew and I are going to jump into. Matthew and I are also going to do a movie called Superior based on a comic that I've got coming out in October, and it's kind of Superman meets Big. It's about a little kid with multiple sclerosis who gets a chance to be his favourite big screen superhero, who's a kind of old-fashioned Superman kind of character.
Cool.
So it's a big family movie kind of thing. I've got a book called Nemesis that we just sold as a movie. It's kind of what if Batman was the Joker, what if the world's only superhero was a bad guy, So we just sold that last week.
Very cool.
And I've got a thing called War Heroes over at Sony right now as well, which is the idea that America's still in the Afghanistan war in 10 years' time, but the only way you can get guys to go and fight in the Gulf is to give them superpowers.
Wow. Very cool.
Those are the 5 things.
Excellent. Now, with like Kick-Ass 2, you're obviously working on that as we speak. I know it's coming out soon. So, are you working differently on it now that you're working with the movie at the same time? Are you sort of trying to coordinate the two, or are you just writing your comic and then deal with the movie separately?
I'll just write my comic. I mean, the minute you try and second guess and try and make something more cinematic, whatever, is when you ultimately don't please anyone. Primarily I want to please myself and the guys who read the comic, and then the movie guys who just adapt that. There's nothing in this that doesn't make sense in the context of the movie, so it should be absolutely fine.
Right. And now, when you're writing, you were talking about doing, you're creating your own characters and stuff, but you also still do a lot of, mainstream, so to speak, or existing superheroes. How do you choose your project now? I mean, you're pretty much one of the biggest names in comics. I imagine you can write anything you want to. What do you look for? Or how do you make your decisions based on what you're going to write?
I genuinely just write what interests me. I'm very lucky to be in a position where I can do that. For years I wrote stuff that didn't. I remember when I was 22 writing Sonic the Hedgehog, just because I needed the money.
Right.
And to be in this position now where I can write stuff that I love is wonderful. I appreciate every second of it. I like writing Wolverine, so although economically it makes more sense to go and create a new comic book franchise that often becomes another movie, sometimes I just feel like writing a Wolverine story, so I go off and write that. So I probably spend, I would guess now, 4 or 5 months a year writing for Marvel, and the rest of the time creating my own stuff.
Cool. Well, going back to Kick-Ass 2, what can fans look forward to with the second series? What are we looking for?
Well, Kick-Ass 2 is very much a continuation of Kick-Ass. It just follows on from Red Mist becoming a bad guy at the end. And it's the flip side of the real-life superhero, where he inspires the real-life supervillains. So he becomes a Charles Manson figure in New York. He comes back from the city and inspires all his little followers to go and do terrible things to people in their homes and so on, And the heroes have to get together, they form a big team, all wearing their costumes, and all have a big badass gang fight in the middle of Times Square with the police trying to hose everyone down and break it up, So it gets bigger, from where we left off last time. It's the next logical step.
Great. Well, I know I'm running out of time, so let me just wrap up with what's one thing you'd like the world to know about you that they don't already know?
I'm a very good chess player.
Cool.
It's weird, nobody's ever asked me about it, but since I was a kid, I got like a chess master thing when I was about 14.
Excellent.
So I'm a big chess fan, and nobody knows it.